Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Michael Wald. Thank you so much for joining me today for what I hope will be an informative and brief but concise discussion of the dangers of plastics, which I call breaking free from plastics pollution. My name is Dr. Michael Wald. You can reach me by email at info@blooddetective.com. My phone number is 914-552-1442. And for free content, especially under the blog section of my website, just go to www.drmichaelwald.com. So let's get into it. First, I just want to give you a brief disclaimer that the information that I'll be discussing with you today is for your education only. It is not meant as a substitute for sound medical or health advice, although I do suggest that you provide this presentation to your doctors if they're not holistically oriented, if you like them and you want to stay with them and you want them to know what you're doing. So what are toxic plastics and where are they found? Well, toxic plastics are synthetic materials containing a variety of harmful chemicals like phthalates and bisphenols, BPAs and BPSs, and microplastics that leach into the environment and into the human body. Now, what's really important to know is where these plastics are, and I've only given you roughly 15 different sources here, but there are many beyond this. Another one of my favorites is the bottom of your shoes if you have rubber soles, and your toothbrush. You're continually releasing and touching plastics, and yes, just by touching something that's plastic, you can put plastics into your bloodstream. So we know that plastics are found in plastic water bottles, foods containing plastic packaging, disposable utensils and straws, and nonstick cookware, which is toxic. Should not be cooking with black plastic or any form of plastic toolware for your food. You want to use wood or stainless steel. There are various personal care products like shampoos and lotions which contain plastics, cleaning supplies, medical supplies, microbeads and cosmetic, grocery bags, plastic toys which children suck on from day one. What do? We stick that little sucker in their mouths, that pacifier, which may pacify them, but is one of the worst things you can do for a growing baby and infant, obviously. We know that plastics are hormone disruptors, to say the minimum. Also, car interiors, various electronics, tea bags, the list goes on and on in terms of sources. So I don't believe it's possible, it is not possible, to avoid plastics entirely. You just can't do it. But what we can do is bolster our detoxification and elimination pathways, because we do know how plastics, for the most part, are detoxified in the body. And most people, according to my experience at least, do not detoxify plastics or lots of other toxins normally. So what are some of the body effects of plastic accumulation in the body? Well, first of all, plastics and their chemical components accumulate in tissues. They cross biological barriers in the body and interfere with critical cellular and systemic functions. Hormone disruption is one example of that. So plastics can mimic or block hormones like estrogen and testosterone. What that means is you're exposed to plastics, and that might boost your estrogen levels, seemingly so, but falsely, because the body confuses plastics with estrogen. And then we know that estrogen increases risk of breast cancer, for example. So you get yourself in that quandary. And as a man, plastics can stimulate the testosterone receptors, and excessive testosterone has been linked to a variety of healthcare problems, the least of which is prostate cancer. Also breast cancer in men. And then we've got problems in terms of just overall cancer susceptibility. We have a link between plastic consumption and breast cancer, prostate, and other cancers due to their effects on the endocrine system, the hormonal system. And everyone should be aware that plastics promote inflammation and chronic inflammation. And this chronic inflammation activates immune responses, leading to persistent inflammation and autoimmune effects. And there are neurologic interactions. Plastics can interfere with brain development and function. It could be linked to ADHD and even memory loss. Reproductive system is affected. Metabolic disorders such as increased risk of obesity and diabetes, and something called metabolic syndrome or syndrome X, which is a triad of high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and high blood fats. And plastics contribute to cardiovascular disease because they promote oxidative stress and vascular or blood vessel inflammation. And then there's kidney and liver toxicity because plastics overburden detoxification in organs. And then last but not least is the microbiome, the intestinal milieu or balance in the intestinal tract. And plastics are known to alter gut bacteria, impairing digestion and immunity. Remember, 80% of our immune systems are in our small intestinal lining. So here's just a brief glimpse of some of the nutrients. I just gave you the top 10 that I tend to recommend what's up with various patients that I believe have plastics toxicity, but you must realize that your need for these nutrients, if you even need these at all, could be very different in terms of dosing and even types. So not everyone should be taking all of these. These are just common examples. So the nutritional support for plastics needs to focus on antioxidation, fiber, and compounds that support liver, kidney, and gut function minimally. One of those nutrients is glutathione, which is a tripeptide immune molecule, which is a very, very important for liver protection and detoxification pathways that remove plastics, known as glutathione conjugation. And then vitamin C. Vitamin C helps to mitigate the oxidative inflammatory stress that can be caused by plastics consumption. The same thing with vitamin E because it protects the cell membranes of cells. Selenium, which also helps support glutathione production. Magnesium, zinc, choline, fiber, curcumin, which reduces inflammation and supports liver health, and milk thistle, or silymarin, which promotes liver regeneration and bile production. Another one I'll add to this is N-acetylcysteine, or NAC, which is better than taking oral glutathione because the NAC increases glutathione much faster than taking oral glutathione, and NAC is a chelator. It helps to remove or chelate heavy metals, and it will also produce glutathione and upregulate what's known as glutathione conjugation, which is a liver pathway essential for removing plastics from the body. And more about detoxification, specifically something called cytochrome P450 enzymes. Don't be thrown by the name of that. Cytochrome P450 is just the name of the liver process of detoxification, or I should say processes of detoxification. And within the cytochrome P450 syndrome, or I should say the cytochrome P450 enzyme systems, it helps convert fat-soluble toxins into water-soluble toxins. So fat-soluble toxins must be converted into water-soluble for them to be eliminated in the urine and the sweat from the body. And cytochrome P450 is the enzyme system that you need to improve to have that happen. Glutathione helps to do that, vitamin C helps to do that, N-acetylcysteine helps to do that, choline, and some other things. And then there's bile excretion. So bile transports plastic-derived toxins into the digestive tract for eventual elimination. So what I'm telling you here is this one slide is telling us we know the pathways we need to use to remove plastics. It's the cytochrome P450 enzyme system, which also includes the glutathione conjugation system. We also know that bile acids, and bile is made by the gallbladder, well, it's made by the liver, and then put into the gallbladder, and then that's secreted, those bile acids, into the small intestine based upon the needs in the gut. And then there's the kidney filtration. Plastics are excreted, we hope, in the urine, and that is only going to happen if the kidneys are in good shape. And then we have the gut microbiome, which helps to break down plastics and helps them to be eliminated fecally or in the stool. Proper hydration is important for detoxification of plastics because hydration promotes proper renal function or kidney function, same thing. And then fiber-rich diets help to bind to toxins in the gut and to bring them out. And then last but not least is sweating through exercise or saunas helps release some toxins, but you're not going to substantially remove plastics through your skin. It's just not going to happen. You want to remove them through the stool, breathing, of course, and these other methods that we've just discussed. Here's 10 additional sources of plastics in daily life for you to be mindful of, because even though I believe you can't avoid all of these sources of plastics, you may be able to avoid 50% of them or something like that, and that's going to make your nutritional detoxification and health maintenance a lot easier. So plastic packaged foods, Bottled water, particularly if any of these plastics are heated, by the way, they release the plastic toxins much, much more easily. Non-stick cookware coatings, disposable utensils, takeout containers, synthetic textiles, cigarette filters, microbeads and exfoliating products, that people use to improve their skin health, let's say on their face, and industrial pollution and microplastics, contaminated water, just a few of the many sources of plastics. So we know now that limited exposure of plastics through lifestyle changes and supports the natural detox pathways, which can be bolstered through proper nutrition. So that's going to wrap it up for this talk, but just a few things to tie up. Number one, when approaching the detoxification of plastics, we always want to maintain a holistic mindedness, because that means we're going to look in different places for plastics. I often will have conversations with clients about their home, about their work environments and other environments and things that they do that might involve exposure to plastics, so that we can lower their exposure to plastics and their bioaccumulation. And then we want to approach a person from a healthcare approach rather than a disease care approach. We don't want to wait until these various diseases and health problems happen from plastics. We want to mitigate those problems now. Plastics are a big deal in the news right now, and they should have been a big deal forever, because they're that toxic and they're creating lots of human health problems that we haven't even identified yet. So the best thing for people to do, in my opinion, is to take the proper nutrients and eat the right foods each day that lower their exposure to plastics and also help their body eliminate the plastics on a daily level. So that's going to involve, when I work with a person, examining their body's physiology and organ systems to see what's been affected, if anything. And that means I might have to order laboratory tests that are from many different medical specialties. And this is a problem. Medicine is simply not, organized and coordinated in such a way to properly manage plastics removal or identification. Simply for one of the simple reasons is because some of the tests that I might do for a person, you can find them in 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 or 12 different medical specialties. And for you to get to see all those physicians would take you probably months to years, and then probably months to years more at your probably failed attempt to get them to talk to one another about your health. So that's why holistic means we don't limit ourselves to specialties. And finally, when we talk about the nutritional supplements part, there's going to be an exercise part to plastics removal, there's going to be a stress reduction part, there's going to be a food part, and there's going to be nutritional supplements, and maybe other parts too. But with nutritional supplements, we want to use levels of nutrients that can support these detoxification pathways for the removal of plastics. If you are getting glutathione and magnesium and zinc, for example, in the minimum recommended allowances, or those basic recommended daily allowances, right? You've heard of that, the RDAs? Those are the minimum amount of a given nutrient to prevent a deficiency disease. The RDAs are not optimal amounts, people. They're certainly not amounts that are needed to properly detoxify plastics from the body. And most doctors don't understand that recommended daily allowances are just that, the minimum recommended daily allowances to prevent a deficiency disease, not to support a person who's up to something big with their health. And then finally, I'd like to offer all of you that are listening a free 15-minute opportunity with me on the phone to discuss your health conditions or concerns. You can also let me know your input about this talk or many others, and certainly I want to know what your interested topics might be. You can contact me at 914-552-1442. You can email me your questions, email me your show topics at info@blooddetective.com. And finally, take advantage of the tons of free content that I have on my website at www.drmichaelwald.com. Thank you so much for listening to this important presentation on plastics, and the best of health to you.